Hey people, it's Zach, and when's the last time we talked about mice? We need to fix that.
Oh look, it's everybody's favorite movie with rodents. It's everybody's second favorite movie with rodents. We could do this all day. Mice. We all love them. Whenever we see them, we scream with joy and run away to grab our pens and papers for autographs. Mice are the key to everyone's happiness.
Yeah, that's what Pinocchio would say.
Mice! Everybody hates them. Whenever we see them, we get fired up with anger and fury. This is my house, thank you very much. I don't need no disease-infested rodent like you here. When you see a mouse, you most likely reach for some mousetraps, and if you live in America, you reach for your shotgun. So when something is so universally hated, what do you do?
Cast him in a movie. Then he could become an actor, get into controversy, and be even more hated.
Oh man, I'm getting tired of these things. Stuart Little, another book adaptation.
I swear this was not intentional.
I think everybody knows what these things are. Books adapted into a movie. Why?
Ka-ching, 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 ka-
These things are opportunities for movie studios to make a lot of money. With an original movie with original characters, it's a lot harder to get something like that to be successful. People don't know these characters and they don't know if the movie will be good. With a book adaptation, oh well, people loved the book, they'll love the movie too. And then they are always proven wrong. Except when we're talking about mice. Stuart Little made $300 million at the box office. Excuse me? It made more money on opening weekends than Toy Story 2. Excuse me? I had no idea this movie was as successful as it was. I wasn't even expecting it to go over the $50 million mark, but $300 million?
Well, economists are saying mice are on the rise.
But hey, whenever a movie with mice in it does well, I don't question anything, I just ask for a sequel. And when that releases, I burn down a building in protest. Let's see if we can find out why this made $300 million. So Stuart Little is based on the novel of the same name by E.B. White. He was already dead by the time they made this movie, so at least we won't have another Willy Wonka situation on our hands. One of the most impressive things about the film is Stuart Little himself. I mean, first of all, mouse.
Yeah, baby! Mice, mice, mice!
But also the fact that his render still holds up today. This film was made in 1999, and the fact they were able to make a basically photorealistic mouse all the way back then is pretty remarkable. It still looks good, and people back then were blown away by how realistic he looked. I couldn't find that much info about the filming, but it started in 1998 and wrapped in 1999, and the movie released on December 17th, 1999.
I guess all that's left to do now is look at the movie.
Oh look, another standard DVD release here. Why don't I own any Blu-rays? I mean, I do, but Blu-rays were never in the $5 movie bin at Walmart when I was a kid. Oh no guys, it looks like we have a 2-in-1 DVD, which means I can't review the box art! Dang it. The front is just Stuart leaning against his little car, and I really want you to know that this is from the co-director of The Lion King.
It's okay everybody, this movie was made by the co-directors, uncles, sons, nephews, brother-in-law. Where's my $300 million?
I don't even need to look at the back because I know it's just gonna be random reviews, probably made by robots, and pictures from the movie and a bunch of gibberish that I swear is longer than the US Constitution. 8 out of 10, I like the colors, but Stuart looks weirdly cropped. I don't know, something about him just looks off.
Alright, now it's time to see our little mouse boy!
Mouse Boy the movie begins with the Little family dropping their son George off at school. He's all pumped up because he's getting a brother. At the orphanage, Mr. and Mrs. Little can't decide which child to choose from. They all look so good.
Okay, apparently I need to word things better. The kids are all nice. The kids are all sweet. The kids look like they're well-behaved.
But then they hear a small little voice talking to them.
Yeah, my friend also had a small voice talking to him one time, and the next thing I know, he's being convicted of killing 20 people.
The voice ends up being Stuart, and he starts telling them about all the other kids at the orphanage. They decide to adopt Stuart, and they take him to the Little House. Did you know every Little in the world can find their way to the Little House?
Lock all your doors.
I don't know why it's sandwiched in between two random buildings, but whatever, I guess claustrophobia is his family's favorite thing. Alright, then Stuart gets eaten by the family cat. Nice parenting skills, guys. You adopt a mouse, even though you literally know you've got a cat at home. George also gets home from school and is excited to meet his brother. Like seriously, why is this kid so excited for a brother? It's a brother. But when he sees it's a mouse, he gets depressed and leaves for his little hidden door thing. I guess he sees having a mouse as a brother as a negative?
That is a ton of positives for me.
The next morning, George and Stuart get up and get ready for the day. But George accidentally drops his clothes on Stuart and he gets taken to the washing machine. He's thrown in there and Snowbell comes to visit him, but it goes about as well as you think it would.
Why would I turn it off? It's my favorite show.
Eventually, Mrs. Little finds him and lets him out, and he has to rest in bed for a little while.
And that is why I am a supporter of hand washing your clothes when you have kids around. Washing machines are just too dangerous.
Once Stuart recovers, they take him clothes shopping and he gets to wear tiny little clothes.
No. I know some mice. They do not wear clothes. They are way too constricting.
He's getting dressed up for a party at the Littles' house, and all the Littles are showing up. That's gonna be a packed party. The family all arrive and meet Stuart for the first time. They're all welcoming and accepting of Stuart, but George is still being the worst human ever.
He's not my brother. He's a mouse.
Later in the night, Stuart shows up in the Littles' bed and he tells them that he has an empty space in his heart.
Your heart does not have an empty space. It's just full of fear since 2 of your family members want you dead.
Stuart tells him that he wants to know what happened to his family, so Mr. and Mrs. Little decide to go to the orphanage and find out. Back at home, Snowbell's friend Monty comes over, and Snowbell tries to hide Stuart, but he fails and Monty laughs at him. But instead of attacking Monty, Snowbell decides the best course of action is to attack Stuart, but luckily he escapes by going under George's little door.
Oh, the things that are behind that door.
But despite how evil George has acted, the room is actually very innocent. It's just filled with little miniature towns. I always liked this scene when I was a kid. It made me want to be a mouse. Look at this. Imagine being small enough to be in a town like this. After Stuart almost kills himself, George is like, yeah, this guy's pretty cool, I guess. And he shows him a little car that he has. And the steering wheel mechanism actually works. Stuart sees George's boat, and George tells him he was going to race it, but he was too scared of losing. But Stuart convinces him to give it another try, so they start to finish the boat, which is called the Wasp. Also, for those of you wondering if George being a psychopath is canon,
He's down here with me.
What are you doing to him?
we also see Snowbell, who is up to no good. He's going to see a cat called Smokey, and I guess there's like a cat mafia in the city because he asks him to kill Stuart. Then we cut to the day of the big boat race. George and Stuart are getting ready, but Stuart ends up tripping and breaking the remote. And since everything in this world is designed with mice in mind, apparently, Stuart is able to steer the boat using the steering wheel. There's also this rich kid that kind of wants to kill Stuart. Why are all the kids in the city literal demons? But Stuart is able to knock down his boat and win the race, and they celebrate with the rest of the family, but then there's a knock at the door.
I mean, you did make a rich kid angry.
But it's actually Stuart's real parents, and they're there to take him home. The Little family is reluctant at first, but eventually they decide that it's for the best, and that Stuart will have a happier life with them. George gives Stuart the red car that for some reason has an actual steering mechanism, and they head off. And then George locks his parents out of the house. Stuart's parents live in an abandoned golf course, and they show him his room at the top of the castle. Meanwhile, back at the Little house, Mr. and Mrs. Little get a visit from the orphanage lady, and she tells them what they had asked her earlier. What happened to Stuart's old parents? Apparently they got crushed when a stack of cans fell on them at a supermarket and Stuart got put in the orphanage. Which means the family that took Stuart wasn't his actual family. The family that took him was actually hired by Smokey to take him away from the Littles. Knowing this, the Little family launches an investigation. And we also see that Smokey and the Mafia cat gang have decided to kill off Stuart. But the family they hired can't bear to hand Stuart over to them, so they tell him the truth and tell him to run away. So Stuart heads off in his little car and tries to find the Little house even though every cat in the city is looking for him. And George actually decides to care about Stuart for once, and he starts making a bunch of missing posters for him. Meanwhile, Stuart is driving through Central Park when he gets surrounded by a bunch of street cats. He backs up his car and he ends up driving into a sewer and is able to get away from the cats. And of course, he ends up right back at the Little's house, but everybody's out looking for him when he gets back. Snowbell is there though, and he makes up a lie and says the family doesn't care about Stuart anymore and they're celebrating the fact he left. And to make Stuart believe him, he shows him the photo the Little family used for the missing posters. So Stuart leaves and goes into the park. Meanwhile, the Little family is still out looking for him. Stuart settles down in the park, but Snowbell and the cats go out looking for them. Luckily, Snowbell decides to turn against the other cats, and he helps Stuart escape. Stuart ends up getting stuck on a branch, and all the other cats get on the branch under him to get him. But it starts to break, and Snowbell puts enough weight on it to make it break, and the cats go tumbling down.
Also, I can promise you that Smokey is definitely not going to show up in front of Snowbell and get knocked into the river by Stuart.
Not bad for a dead house cat.
See, I told you he showed up behind him, not in front of him.
Stuart and Snowbell head home to the Littles, and they all live happily ever after. The end.
So that was Stuart Little. Was it good? Yes. Was it $300 million good? Oh god, no.
I feel like it's meant to be more of a funny, entertaining family movie than anything. The plot is all over the place, the climax isn't really climactic since it involves those awful cats, but it's a very charming movie, and on the Zacker Attacker show rater, it's getting a 7 out of 10. I enjoy it, I haven't watched it in a while, and our little mouse boy did not disappoint us.
This feels like a happy little storybook movie. Something about it is just so cozy and warm. I'll get to Stuart Little too eventually, but I'm not really in such a rush to do it. Never mind, I guess I should be.